I went to Alexander Downer. I knew Alexander pretty well, and I said, look, perhaps this would be a good time for John to step down. So he came to me and asked me to go and sound people out.
When was this?
This was about the anniversary of Tampa. It would have been a good time for him to go. Well, we'd had a pretty good run. We were involved in an unnecessary foreign war. There were children in detention centres up and down the country. The domestic borrowing figures were earth-shattering. He said, look, if they want me to go, I'll go, but they'll have to tell me to go.
And did you tell him?
I hadn't gone there to tell him to resign. I'd gone there to sound him out on the prospect of resigning if at any stage he were asked to, which he hadn't been, and which he subsequently wasn't. I didn't see an iceberg. I was standing up on the deck. I couldn't see an iceberg. Well, I was told, get your hat and coat, you're on. Well, so I went back to them and I said, look, I've spoken to him and he wants a margarita and some Diet Coke and some DVDs.
It must have been very difficult.
It was terribly difficult. It was very, very difficult indeed. I mean, we were supposed to be running the country.
Were you really?
It's no wonder we balls that up, is it? I don't think a lot of people realised how bad our policies were.
Your own people?
Our own people. I mean, I don't think a lot of them realised at all. Some of our policies were terrible.
And people had stopped listening?
I beg your pardon? No, there wasn't an iceberg at all. I mean, I looked very hard. There was no iceberg. I couldn't see one. Well, I don't think he was ever going to come out, was he?
Did he tell you he was going to come out?
He told me he wasn't going in.
So what did you do at this point?
Well, I spoke to some other people who didn't want to be the Prime Minister either.
There were a few of you, were there?
Well, there were hundreds of us. A hell of a lot of us. So we had a frank discussion, I'd have to say very frank.
And what did you do?
We didn't do anything.
But you were very frank about it?
We were very, very frank about it indeed.
What were you frank about?
Actually, he was perhaps slightly franker than I was.
In what way?
He told me he was going to count to 3 and if I was still standing there he'd shoot me in the leg. Of course we should have signed Kyoto.
So why didn't you?
Sign Kyoto?
Yes.
Bugger if I know. I still believe the Titanic was the safest form of transport at that time that was available to us. No question.